He was jumping very good with the little girl, and then he got to a corner and he parked himself and he started rearing up and clapping his hands. And I got him home, and it took a few weeks, but I learned him some English, and I've given him a bit of a break since September, first show. He ring the Thursday, and he's got a little trick. When the bell goes, he sets off and goes to the first fence and then parks himself. So I'll get him tonight, won't I? I'm going to try to give you a little bit of insight into show jumping. I'm going to tell you how I got into show jumping. I'm going to tell you a few stories about a few of my teammates. I met John Whittaker when we were both 12 years old. There was a show in between Lancashire and Yorkshire. I came from Lancashire and he came from Yorkshire. And it was called the Pennine Riding Club. And I used to go there, and there was this little lad with 2 green candles coming out of his nose. He never had his choppers washed from the beginning of the season to the end. And he always won every class. Some things don't change. When we were in Young Riders, we had a deal, me and John. Whoever won the most the day before, the other one had to plat the other one's horse up. And I can tell you something, I became a very good platter. Just as I'm warming this horse up, show jumping's all about rhythm and balance. When you watch all the top riders riding, they make it look very easy. The reason why they make it look easy is because they're in complete control of the horse. Now, this horse hasn't been in control of him for the last couple of days, so hopefully we can get a few manners on him tonight. The idea when you're working your horse is to get the back end underneath you and hopefully try and get his head down a little bit. So he's in a nice round shape. If he's got his back legs underneath him, then he can push like a frog jumping. We do basic exercises. We don't jump the grade A's very big at home, if we jump them at all. But little exercises and grids do work well. When you start trotting down the poles, keep the rhythm. Don't fast, don't let him go too slow. If you want to slow him down, it works if you just lean back a little bit. If I want to stop, I come back there, then he knows that's a lot easier just putting your shoulders back a few inches. It's a lot easier than wrapping the rein around your hands, sticking your leg forward and giving him 3 almighty karate chops in the go. Go. I started going to the local riding school when I was 9 years old, and I saw all the pretty girls there. And I thought, hey, oh, this is alright. There's no lads, there's only me. So we decided that we were going to form our own little club. And I came from Accrington in Lancashire. Have you heard of Accrington, Stanley? Well, that's where I come from. And there was an article in the Accrington Observer, and it said 10 children saving up to buy a pony. And it was 1966, and there was a thing called the Aberfan disaster, where all the slagging slid down and killed a load of children in schools. So 10 of us, me and 9 girls, gave £1 each, and this fella gave us a pony, because he bought it for his kids, and they got no interest, so he said, if you give £10 to charity, you can have the pony. Fortunately, after a few months, all the girls got boyfriends. They forfeited the pounds and I finished up with the pony. So that's how I got my first pony. You can see there, keep them in a nice bouncy rhythm. When Robert Smith was 7 years old, we were at Southport Flower Show. He had a little black pony called Black Boy. And his mum Irene had took him to the show because Harvey Smith was away on international duty. And Irene wasn't really interested in jumping, but she took the kids because Harvey wasn't there. And Robert was worried. And he said, what should I do, Mum? She said, keep it bouncing underneath you like a rubber ball. And I've never forgot that. That was like a layman watching. But if you watch, if you keep the horse bouncing underneath you, bounce, 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 bounce. If there's any boyfriends been dragged along tonight that know nothing about horses, you don't know what I'm talking about. Imagine Katie Price riding a horse. Bounce, 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 bounce. Oh, why would the dress house there? That's what we call a flying change. Oh, eat your heart out. Richard Davison. Oh, oh. You've heard of them doing a piaffe? Well, this is trying to do a piaffe. All right. We call him Norman in the stable. Norman from Norway. After this week, I think we're going to call him Naughty Norman. Anyhow, what I'm trying to do is just get him to relax. I always wanted to be a show jumper, but I didn't work out how I was going to do it because my parents had no money. So when I left school, I went grooming for David Boyd, and I had one horse to ride and 10 to groom. After that, I went riding for a man called Joe Pullen, who had nightclubs, and they had a nightclub called the Talk of the North Club in Manchester. Graham Fletcher used to ride Talk of the North, and he'd been one of his very good horses, along with Butterman Boy. That's good. We use a crossbow when we're warming up to keep the horse in the centre of the fence and keep him going straight. We only start jumping across fences when we're jumping for big prize money. But to start off with, the young horses, well, and the old ones, nearly everybody starts off with a crossbow. You can see there, I'm trying to get him in a rhythm. Oh, that's good. Anyhow, back to my stories. So, I met John Whittaker when I was 12 years old. We've been all around the world together, and you know, people think he's very solemn. You see John riding the ring and he's got a very straight face, and you don't know whether he's won £15,000 or lost it. This is that club. He used to ride a little bit more straight back than he does now. This. He went to Thailand last year on his holidays with his wife Claire. He was walking down the street and there was a 65-year-old pot-bellied man with tattoos all over him, bald head, and he's walking along with a little 16-year-old pretty dolly bird from Thailand. And Claire said to John, "John, what do you think that man's thinking?" John's answer was, he's probably thinking, "Look at that silly bugger, brought his own wife here." Alright, so we've jumped the crossbow. Now we're going to go and try. No, but I hope the lights are flickering. Oh. No lighting, no lighting!
Oh dear, oh dear.
In 1996, I was lucky enough to get picked for the Olympic Games. I got a fantastic horse called Isoto, and I think he was probably the best horse in the country at the time. Now, when you go into the Olympic Games, you get loads of freebies. All the kit that you get, you know, these jackets, you get shorts, you get shoes, t-shirts, trunks, everything. And all different companies want to give you things. You know, Timberland give the shoes. So we've got to go down to, we've got a postcard through the post, and we've got to go down to London to get all the kit. So Richard Davison, the dressage rider, he rang me. He talks a bit posh, Richard, you know, they do that dressage lot. He said, listen, old boy, you think we should share the petrol to drive to London? Because he lives at Uttoxeter, it's not that bleeding posh. I said, yeah, all right, Rich. So we went down and we went into this building and Richard gave his piece of paper in and they gave him all his stuff and a big bag. And I gave the lady my postcard and she looked me up and down. And she looked at the postcard and she looked me up and down again. And she looked at the postcard. I said, is there a problem, madam? She said, yes, it says athlete on this piece of paper. Anyhow, we get to the Olympic Games in Atlanta, and all my teammates, you couldn't have had a better team around you in the world. John and Michael Whittaker and Nick Skelton. And we'd all been friends, you know, from kids. So, I rode my horse a little bit longer because I wanted to do it all the correct way. They rode the horses for 15 minutes, then went and got the shorts on and everything, so it was boiling hot. When I'm getting off my horse, John came running up, he says, get the shorts on, and here, put some of this sun cream on. We don't want you getting suntanned. We don't want your legs burning. I thought, there's a catch here. This is not, it's a setup. Anyhow, so he had a little tube of sun cream as well, so I'm watching him. So he squeezed some out, and he rubbed it on his arms. So I squeezed some of mine out, and I rubbed it on my arms. And then he squeezed some out, and he rubbed it on his legs. So I squeezed some out, and I rubbed it on my legs. Then he rubbed it on his face, up his nose, in his ears, behind his neck. So I did the same. This happened for 3 days on the run. So after the third day, I'm stood in the stables next to my horse, Otto, and he started licking my arm. And Michael fell on the floor laughing. I said, why are you laughing? He likes me, I'm his friend. He said, just smell at your arm. So I smelt at my arm, and it smelt of peppermint. I said, what's going on here? He says, our John has spent hours. He got a syringe off the vet, and he sucked all the sun cream out, and you've just rubbed a clean toothpaste all over yourself. He said, yesterday, you know that white liquid boot polish they gave us to put on our Timberland shoes? You rubbed boot polish all over yourself yesterday. He said, but the first day were at best, that were our John's pile cream. I've had a lovely complexion ever since. I wonder if I dare try and jump a fence. Them spotlights aren't going to go out, are they? We'll just see what happens. Now then, Norman, from nowhere. The bugger, he knows there's no prize money tonight. I wonder if he'll jump under that spotlight. Huh? Do I need a torch? How about that? I'll tell you the rules. The louder you cheer, the higher we go. I can't see that brown fence there. I wonder if he can see it. I've been giving him carrots all day, just in case this... Oh, I can't see that. Oh, I can see that one. Now, me and my mates, we've been athletes all the career, but we do have a little bit of a drink at night. And I get people coming up to me saying, hey, can you remember I got drunk with you in Mexico? I said, don't worry, not exclusive, I've got drunk all over the world. And we've been in a few predicaments. Like, we're in Zurich one year, and Zurich was the biggest prize money in the winter. £35,000 for the winner of the Grand Prix. But we'd all decided that we weren't going to drink because we were getting serious. Well, we got to Saturday night and we'd won absolutely nothing. So we thought, stuff it. So we went in the bar and we'll give it a right good go. And the old Austrian Hugo Simon was with us, and he drinks schnapps. Well, we got going on this stuff, and at 2 o'clock they said they were closing the bar. But Michael was in full flight and he says, come on, we'll go back to your room and drink the minibar dry. There was a class at 10 o'clock in the morning, a pairs class. And it was for good money, £2,000 each to each pair. So I was with Michael and Nick was with John. Well, I woke up the morning after and I couldn't remember anything. And I felt behind me and I felt something. And I thought, flipping heck, I can't remember pulling a girlfriend last night. I turned over and it was Michael. And I looked at my watch and it was 12 o'clock lunchtime. We'd missed the class. Apparently, Nick had got there and he had his best horse, Major Wager, in it. And he was waiting for John. And they said John came staggering out of a taxi. The groom was there holding his boots in the collecting ring. They put him into his boots. They went in the ring. Nick went galloping round, full hammer. He passed the stick over to John. John missed the stick. He hadn't tightened his girth up. He was still drunk. He bent down to try and pick the stick up and the saddle slipped under his belly. And Nick was screaming abuse at him. So then it comes to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the big Grand Prix. So I'm still a little bit under the affluence of alcohol. So I'm walking the course and I'm bumping into all them big Germans, Frankie Sluthak and Lugger Beerbum, and they're all looking at me disgusted. John had Bilton there, Nick had Dollar Girl, Michael had a good horse called Midnight Madness, I had a horse called Rhapsody. Well, I went in the room, and Michael's always telling me that I don't look where I'm going. Michael was sat in the stand, there were 12,000 people. And they said I jumped number 1 and 2 in a straight line, and I got to the end, and Michael didn't think I knew where I was going. So he stood up and he shouted, "Waft!" And all the crowd turned around and looked at him. He sat down sheepishly. And then I got to the other end and Mick stood up and he shouted, "Right!" I was the only one that jumped clear out of the lot of us. And I came out of the ring and Michael says, "It's a good job I shouted." I said, "What are you on about? I didn't hear you. Done it all for nothing." Hey up, Tug.
Hi, Geoff. How are you?
How you doing?
Oh, not bad. You look lovely in the lights, my boy.
I haven't seen you, have I?
No.
Didn't even see you at Olympia. I didn't get invited.
Oh, you didn't. Now, Geoffrey, they're out there scoring away to try and get these, let's say, lights sorted out. And you've been very kindly entertaining us. I think we're probably not going to get enough light back for you to jump for a minute or two. But tell me, over all the years, which is the moment where you can say that was the special moment of my life as far as the jumping game's concerned? Would it be Atlanta?
Yeah, it's fantastic jumping a clear round at the Olympic Games. And I missed getting a gold medal in the individual.
Yes, silly.
By a midge's spit. But I've had some fantastic moments. In 1986, I won the Foxhunter final, which was my ambition then. I never even thought about Olympic Games because I thought they were too much out of my reach. It was only when I got Otto that the nearer it got, the more I wanted it. Winning the Hickstead Derby, I never thought that was in my reach. Because you need a special horse for the Hickstead Derby. It doesn't matter how good your horse is, if they don't like those derby fences, there's no point going in. And I had a horse called Casabacus, which it really suited him. He was fantastically brave. And I could set him up for each fence. He was a little bit hot, he was a little bit like this horse is jumping. So you got to settle him down between each fence. So you could take a little bit more time. I took a little bit too much time. I had a time fault when I came out of the ring. But fortunately, I was the only one to jump a clear round. So I won it with a time fault.
And just getting back to Atlanta and Itzardo, and indeed what he did, what made him such a special horse?
He knew he was better than the rest. You know, he'd go into a show like Olympia, and he'd give every fence 3 feet. And normally if a horse does that, he frightens himself. But I could hear all the crowd gasping. I after I jumped every fence. And he didn't frighten himself at all. He gave every fence 3 feet, and when the crowd grasped, he kept turning around to me and saying, "If they think that was good, watch the next one." Princess Haya, who is, what is she, head of the FEI?
President of the FEI, if you don't mind.
She once came up to me, she said, "Can you hear all the crowd gasping every time you go to a fence?" I said, "No, I switch off, I don't hear it." She said, "You do that when I'm riding." She said, "I get about 1.5 strides away from the fence and they all start gasping." But that's in dismay because she wasn't the best rider, was she, mate?
You won't ask me another question on that, will you? Now, Geoffrey, let's look forward a little bit. Olympic Games. How special is it for us to have the Olympic Games in London?
Well, it's everything, isn't it? You know, I've been lucky to go to 2 Olympic Games. It would be a dream for a rider. I think it's out of my reach this time. My best horse, Racinas, he's been injured for 18 months. He's just back on the road. I've got him here working him. And I'm taking him down to Valencia in Spain. I'm going to start jumping him there, but I think I'm a little bit too late for that. But there's for 4 lucky riders, it's going to be, well, there'll never be another Olympic Games like it, will there? Because we won't have it on our own soil. Yeah. In my time, anyway.
Yeah. It's a once in a lifetime.
I'm 26 next week.
Oh, well.
Did you say 126, Geoffrey?
Who do you think's going to go, Mike?
Well, there you are. I was going to ask you.
Come on, don't start sidestepping.
Well, you've got to have Skelly, haven't you?
Yeah.
Skelly's got 2 really good horses, and in fact, the younger one for me might be the better one.
I beg to differ, I think. The other one's got more experience.
You go for Carlo?
I'll go for Carlo.
Yeah, okay.
Are we having a tenner on it?
Yeah, we'll have a tenner on it.
If I do get invited back into the commentary box at Olympia, I'll...
So who then's going to... Well, I think you've got to have Ben Mayo. That horse has just improved literally every time he's come out.
Yeah, it has, and he's got... Robin Hood has been off the road for probably a year now, but he assures us that he's back on the road. You know, part of the thing with these top horses is keeping them sound, keeping all the wheels on. Because the little niggling injury can stop them jumping at the best. And unfortunately, they can't talk. It's like this horse going in the ring and the bell going and not going to the first fence. I wish I could have a conversation with him over a pint. I'd probably finish up throwing my pint at him.
Or 2? Or 3?
He is very talented. I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep jumping a few little things because it's good to get him in the ring. Just get him to a fence. That's good. Can you remember the rules? The louder you cheer. Can we have the fence up, girls, please?
Perhaps this is the secret. Perhaps we should go jump him in the dark. Yeah.
I've tried it before. They always jump well in the dark. You know, I'll tell a little secret. We're not supposed to do it. But we're at Bath and West Showground one day, and I had a horse called Boy, and he was a fantastic jumper, but he was a little bit naughty. He was too clever for his own good, a little bit like this one. And he could jump anything. But he knew that once he got in the ring, you couldn't tell him off. So the bell would go, they'd say, right, now it's my chance to get me home back on you. So I had this idea at Bath and West. I thought, if I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, the course builders will have set the course for the day after. I can have a little practice. It's not allowed, but there's nobody going to be about. So I got up and I went in the ring, and there were 10 fences, and there were big fences, and I jumped the course clear. And I gave him a pat, and I thought, that'll be it, he's ready for this afternoon. We walked the course in the afternoon, and they'd built 12 fences. The last 2 fences up the grandstand side, they had put them in the day before because the dancing diggers were coming on first thing in the morning. So I went in the ring and the bell went, and we jumped the first 10 fences. Unbelievable, fantastic. And then the dirty mongrel, he turned round the corner to come back home, and because I hadn't practiced over them fences, he parked himself and I couldn't get him out of the ring. That was going towards home. So, maybe cheating doesn't pay.
That's the first time I've ever heard you admit that.
Do you want to change them to white poles? Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Cole, the course designer.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, first to go is Stevie Wonder. Riding Naughty Norman. I think he should be able to see that brown one, shouldn't he? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Right, I'll tell you exactly what happened then. I came to that fence, and he just tried his little trick. But I put my leg against him. I've got some little sharper spurs on that I had yesterday. So, it just shot him forward. But it shot him forward too much, and that's why he ran into the fence and had it down. Now, if he behaves himself this time, and he listens to me, and he stays in a rhythm, then hopefully we should be able to. Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's a little bit buzzy. If I can stand off the fence a bit more, then he'll jump it good. Now, it's not. You watch riders walking a course. It's not just a case of stand in the middle and say, there's one, there's two, there's three. We measure the distances between each fence. And say that distance down there, I think that's measured at 4 strides. So I come off the corner there, and if that 4 strides is normal, I'll ride at the normal tempo. If the fence is a little bit, if the distance is a little bit short, then I have to come a little bit slower to this fence and ride a little bit deeper. So he makes a climbing sort of a jump and he lands steep. If it's a long distance, then I'll come with a bit more pace out of the corner and I'll stand back a little bit. The horse will always land the same distance. The distance that he takes off away from the fence, he will land the same distance at the other side. So if the distance is a bit long, then we'll stand off it a little bit, make a hurdle type of a jump, and, you know, you make up your distance in the middle. I'm friends with the national hunt jockey, Carl Llewellyn, and he's always sending me texts. And he sent me one last, most of them are too rude that I can tell you. But for once, he sent me a clean one last week. And he said, I'm so obsessed with horse racing, my wife and daughter are leaving me. I can see them. They're at the gate. And they're off! Right, 4 strides. Hey, just listen to this one. John Whittaker's always sending them as well. He's not miserable like he looks, he's got a wicked sense of humour, John. And he sent me one this morning. It said, I used a performance enhancer in the bedroom with my wife last night. I wore a blindfold.